Hi, and you're very welcome to episode 6 of the Leitrim GAA podcast, a collaboration between ourselves here at finalwhistle.ie and Leitrim GAA. I'm Breifne Early, and once again, I am joined by Colin Regan, our resident GAA insider, shall we call him, based up there in Dublin. Colin, you're very welcome back to the programme.
Great to see you, Breifne. Thanks for having me.
How has life been? It's been 3 weeks since we've had you on. I suppose our panel rotation of co-hosts, it's your turn. But I suppose, what have you been up to over the last couple of weeks? Because I spotted something I want to talk to you about later on that I'm also interested in taking part in, and that's Dads and Lads, or Lads and Dads. I can't remember what it is. You're involved in that program.
Yeah.
Don't tell us too much about it now.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about that later. So
we'll have a chat later about it. Plenty to talk about on the show tonight. We're going to talk about Leitrim Ladies reaching the league final, the Division 4 league final. They had a fantastic victory over Limerick at the weekend. We'll be talking to Bronagh O'Rourke of St. Joseph's about her 2-goal haul in that particular clash. We'll also be talking to Dromahair, to a couple of people from Dromahair, St. Patrick's and Dromahair, about their fantastic win in the Texaco Support for Sport programme, where sports clubs across the country could apply to be their county champion effectively and win a cash prize of €5,000. And Dromahair won that from all the sports clubs in the county. So congratulations to him. We'll be hearing from Texaco and the club on that. A huge amount of money, Colin, €5,000 in the current environment to do up bits and pieces around the club. I think it's fantastic.
I know what, it doesn't surprise me, because Dromahair have been doing some phenomenal work through their involvement in the Healthy Club project, which it falls in under our department remit there, and their Healthy Club officer Tracy is one of the best in the country. Any club who has a volunteer of her caliber, and it's the kind of work that it's the off-field stuff that really builds community spirit and extends the club out beyond the 4 white lines of the pitch and transforms it from being a sports club into a community club. And I think it's just whatever Dromahair are doing there, they're doing it really, really well, and they have just connected. They've broken down that boundary, as I said, between what is the difference between a sports club and a community club.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of clubs, another club comes to kind of a close this weekend, and that, of course, is the Supporters Club for Leitrim GAA. I know you were involved in the launch, Colin. You MC that event from that very location a couple of weeks ago.
This beautiful surrounds.
It's hard to believe it's been, 6 or 7 weeks since we actually hosted that night on the Leitrim GAA platform. That draw takes place this Saturday evening in Cox's Steakhouse in Drummond. Please don't show up to the event, though. Support Cox is down the road. It's not open to the public, but we will be hoping that it will be joined online. All the details will be available on the Leitrim GAA website as the weekend approaches, in terms of how you can be part of that draw and see what's going on. I know they have plans to make that as accessible as possible in the current restrictions at the moment. At €5,000, the first prize, sponsored by Cox's Steakhouse in Drummond. 12 prizes in total. Plenty of things for people to get excited about. So do check that out. And if you haven't yet, leitrimsupportersclub.ie, get your tickets. Don't forget to pick what club you're with as well there. We'll also talk a little bit later about winawedding.ie, but enough about that on the show over the last couple of weeks. We'll talk about it later on in the show. Colin, we might as well get your view. We spoke to Aidan last week about the Leitrim performance in the championship, or the football and hurling league so far. Not to beat a dead horse, it's been disappointing, but you've been there as a player in the past. Where do Leitrim go to from here?
The basics, Breifne. That's where they go. For me, the basic errors that were happening. Like I only saw very brief glimpses of the hurling, but the football, at that level, at inter-county level, there was just an unacceptable level of basic errors. If there is such a thing, people say there's no such thing as an unforced error these days in sports because of the type of pressure that's being applied, but that wasn't the case in too many situations for the Leitrim players. There seems to just have been, this happens too often, unfortunately, in the county, is the inability to maintain momentum. And for Leitrim to perform, regardless of whether we're in Division 4, Division 3, whatever division we're in, because we don't have the scale of players to pick from, and that results in a really tight panel in terms of caliber. Every one of those players have to be at their best in every single training session, but then also in every single game. You can't be at your best in every single game unless you're at your best in every single training session. So Leitrim can afford to carry a couple of lads having off days in any given game if the rest of the boys are at their pitch best. And unfortunately, that requires a level of concentration to maintain that their high level of performance right through training and match days. And unfortunately, for me anyway, looking from the outside in at the moment, it seems that there's a bit of a struggle to maintain that level of concentration and effort in order to translate it through onto a consistent performance. So, we saw what happened over the Division 4 success a couple of years ago. We built momentum game on game. And there was a couple of those matches that could have went either way. The Wicklow game. Actually, you could pick out the most of the games from that campaign, but the lads dug deep and got momentum going that they obviously carried into training then, and they carried on into the matches the subsequent weeks. You have to translate that for Leitrim to really see progress. We have to translate that level for seasons, progressive seasons. It's not. It's just. It was brilliant to see them in Croke Park for a Division 4 final. Phenomenal, in fact, and it was a great lift for the county. But for the boys themselves to get the return on the time that they're putting in, and believe me, they're not shy on the time. I know they're not short on the time they're putting in, but they have to translate that into phenomenal, concentrated effort for the periods they're there, and then they have to be led as well. They have to be led appropriately to develop as players. And I know we talked to Terry a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get a chance to see was there much reaction to Terry's comments in the county about the standard at club level needing to lift in order to raise all boats. But I got to agree with him.
Well, there was a fairly mixed reaction. We would have got a lot of positive and a lot of negative reaction towards that. I know I must have heard it back from, if I've heard it back from one person, I've heard it back from a couple of dozen people over the last couple of weeks. So it's definitely got people talking. Whether they support it or not, I'm not quite so sure. You talked about 2019 and that successful promotion push in Division 4. It's pretty much a similar squad in the dugout and on the pitch. There's very actual, for Leitrim teams and in Leitrim terms in recent years, it's a much smaller turnover over a 2-year period than we would be used to. So what's changed? What's different now? Has the coronavirus come in? Have maybe some people lost interest either on or off the pitch?
For me, it comes back, it's application, Breifne. As you said, that team, considering the base that they built for themselves in achieving promotion, they should have been able to build on that incrementally. And, it doesn't happen with a squad like Leitrim and a county like Leitrim. That doesn't happen in huge leaps. That happens in, to borrow the famous Al Pacino line from Every Given Sunday, it's the inches, and it actually is so imperceivable how each player can progress and develop. Even focusing in on a particular skill where they know they have a weakness that they need to apply themselves over a 3 to 6 month period. To the outside world, that player hasn't changed, but to the player himself, if he applies himself appropriately, and if that's happening across an entire squad, and as I said, is being managed with a clear vision of what the team wants to do when it gets out on the field, then for me, unfortunately, that for me has been the difference, the level of application, both individually and collectively. And I mean collectively as the entire setup.
Yeah, it's disappointing from a supporter's point of view, but I think, as we've said before on the show with the various different people, it's darkest before the dawn, and I think we will be seeing hopefully brighter days ahead after the poor results we've had. Brings us forward to the championship, of course. We play Mayo or Sligo in a couple of weeks. Your outlook on that?
Well, like the thing that look, I'm an eternal optimist myself, as anyone who played for Leitrim has to be. But what gives me hope is that while the application at the moment isn't where it needs to be, I think the talent in that squad is probably better than Leitrim has had at its disposal for 10 years, or actually more than 10 years. So that's what gives me hope, Breifne. Look, I think we're not going to, I hate to say it, but I don't think it's going to be the year for Leitrim to pull off any big shocks in the championship this year, because we just seem to be coming in at from quite a low ebb, and the league tables don't lie, no matter how unusual a league it was this year. But I think there's just a collective need again for us to appreciate or ask ourselves, and I'm talking about a club level first here, what does success look like for Leitrim? And there's some great things happening across Leitrim at the moment, like in terms of the cool camps that are going to be thankfully returned to the county this summer. Year on year, Leitrim has the highest percentage of young people participating in cool camps of any per head of population of any county in the country. So that's success. But if we want success to translate across into silverware outside of the county, so look at one team in Leitrim is going to win every single competition in the county. But if we want that to translate across into competing and winning against other counties, then things have stepped up in terms of preparation right across Gaelic games. And we are lagging somewhat behind. Now, I see huge potential. We spoke to Stephen McGurn the last time we were talking, and that type of a systematic implementation of a coaching plan that works with coaches in our clubs, first and foremost, to ensure that they are delivering the fundamentals to young people, to the youngsters that are going through our nurseries. That's as long a term a plan as we need to be looking at in Leitrim. That's my personal feeling, Breifne. Like, I know, looking at my own club, I was chatting to Gareth Phelan last weekend, Saturday morning. He was heading over to assist with the nursery, and we have a young, enthusiastic coaching officer in the club now, Peter McLowan, that's doing great things down there. Things that haven't been done to that level of professionalism through nobody's fault in the club at all. It's just that people maybe didn't realize that this is where things had moved on to. And the experience that those youngsters are having in our nursery now has the potential to embolden their love of Gaelic games, but also to develop the fundamental skills they need at that level, that they can progress as they move up through the club structures. So when they move, any of them that are selected to progress at a county development squad or right up into the underage and senior competitive structures, the coaches at those levels aren't worried about their skill development. They're working on bonding them as a team and high-level performance tactics and considerations.
Yeah, obviously all helping to raise the level across the board of the base level of skills with every player in the county, regardless of whether they're county club or even just a bit part player in the likes of me versus the likes of you, that we all raise our levels across the board in the county. And I suppose long may that work continue. And I think you're right. I think we'll see the fruits of that in due course. Now, one team who don't seem to be affected by any of this is the Leitrim Ladies. 4 games played in the league this year, 4 games won, quite comfortably in most cases in the end. And the latest game they played was their semi-final against Limerick. I don't know what I was going to say there. Against Limerick on Sunday afternoon, and they had a comfortable victory. Let's catch up with one of their players, Bronagh O'Rourke, after their win on Sunday. Now, we did mention at the top of the show that there was a bit of success this weekend in the Leitrim colours, and that, of course, came from the ladies, who've been having a stellar year this year in Division 4 of the Lidl National Football League. One of their stars forwards joins us now, Bronagh O'Rourke, obviously a woman of St. Joseph's over there in Carrigal and Havas, but she's very much a Leitrim lady at the moment. Bronagh, congratulations into a Division 4 final. You must be delighted.
Cheers, Breifne. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, definitely delighted. It's a position that we've been talking about for quite some time since you come in. So it's just great to be in this position now.
Was that congratulations as well? Was that a goal that you talked about at the start of the season, or did you go into those sort of specifics with the squad?
No, well, I certainly didn't think I'd be in on top of a high ball. It's not something anyone will be practicing me with. But no, I suppose just our full forward line tries to keep in as close as possible to the goals and try and hit pot luck from there.
Yeah, it's been a really impressive start to the year for Leitrim. 4 wins out of the 4 games you've played. You get another crack at Louth now in 2 weeks' time in the Division 4 final up in Clonus. Any concerns about that game going into it? I suppose Louth, it was fairly comfortable in the end, but it was a tough encounter a couple of weeks ago in Ballinamore.
Yeah, well, look, at Louth, they're going to have 3 or 4 more games under their belt when they see us, so they're going to be hugely improved from when we played them in the first round. So we certainly know it's going to be a mammoth task in front of us. They had another star forward that wasn't playing that day when we were playing them, so they have kind of added ammunition now to come at us the next day. So we'll not be relying too much on the first round game now for study notes. It's going to be definitely a much more difficult game and tighter.
They always say it's the team that learns most from an encounter that wins the second time out. What do you think that you learned from that first encounter, or even over the course of the league, Bronagh, as a unit?
Well, I suppose just a wee bit of resilience. I suppose we kind of found ourselves behind in numerous games, but we never kind of panicked. Every game you go out in, every team is going to have a purple patch. That's going to happen. It's how we're going to respond to it and kind of negate how they go about their purple patch. So I suppose just a wee bit of resilience and calm amongst the team. So if things aren't going right, we'll just keep plugging away, and then when we get into the water break, we'll be able to kind of calm down and get back to old ways and go from there. But I think it's just certainly that air of calm amongst the team that whether we're winning or losing, it's going to happen if we keep plugging away.
Actually, Bronagh, that's interesting because we didn't have them when I was there. What do you make of the water breaks? Is it an opportunity to reset?
I suppose I can see it from both sides. If you're winning, possibly it can be to the detriment of the team because you're on that roll, and then if you're on the other side of it, it's great because you can kind of slow down the momentum of the other team. But purely from a fitness point of view, I just can't imagine the days when we were playing 30 minutes because we're all gagging for water after 15 minutes. So I think we're kind of glad of it, to be honest.
Has it become a game of 4 quarters though now rather than 2 halves?
Yeah, probably has become a lot more tactical because of that. You kind of target maybe quarters, whereas maybe when you had the 2 halves, it's really difficult to target a section within the game. So certainly with the 4 quarters, it might help managers, kind of negate the other team in how they attack because you have kind of a time to talk for 30 seconds or so and get your talk out.
We've had a bit of discussion on the show over the last few weeks about, I suppose, the issues that are around with the men's side of the game and even the hurlers disappointing winnings or losing seasons. What's different about the girls' point of view, in your opinion, that really has driven this success this year?
Well, I suppose the appointment of Hugh Donnelly is a major winning for us. He's a major cog in the whole machine. I suppose we no more than any other county we've had to endure lockdowns and whatever, but Hugh has been incredibly adaptable during that time and he's never blamed COVID on our situation. He's always kind of went back to the drawing board and changed training regimes and whatever, and we've come back relatively fit because of that. And I suppose competition for places, he's driven that and he's created that, so girls can see there's actual opportunities to get on to the team and to get into the squad as well. You're trying to compete just to get into the 30, never mind the 15. It's a mountain in itself. So I suppose that inner competitiveness that Hugh has created is a major driving factor in that.
And what about the ladies' game in a broader sense in the county and nationally, Bronagh? Do you see the benefits that the really strong promotion and the 2020 campaign has brought in terms of just visibility for other young girls in terms of them aspiring towards representing their club and their county?
Oh, absolutely. Visibility is massive, and it has increased over the past number of years. And I would say that the LGFA have seen a major increase in registration numbers. I know we have from our club, and I've heard from lots of other neighbouring clubs that the registration has just went through the roof with girls. So course, if they're seeing these girls on TV and newspapers, and more importantly, social media, they're going to want to be like them. And it's kind of in their head. If they're seeing it every day, they're going to want to be out there like us.
Yeah, I heard a discussion today on News Talk as I was in the car talking about men's sports versus women's sport. I have to say there was some very disappointing inputs and texts into the show about which one they'd prefer to watch, and they came from maybe people with maybe Neanderthal thinking in some respects, but we're a long way behind other countries. And I think still, almost 50 years after it was enacted, something like Title IX, Bronagh, you might not be familiar with that, apologies if you're not, it's where if you want to spend money on boys' programs, sports programs, you have to spend the exact same amount of dollars on women's sports programs, which has created so many more opportunities for girls in colleges, sports in particular. So if they want a football team with 80 scholarships on it, they have to provide 80 scholarships, not necessarily for women's American football, but in sports that the girls want to play, whether it's soccer or athletics or whatever it might be that they're interested in. And the funding is equal. And you can see how successful America are on the world stage in women's sports, whether it's dominating soccer over the last 2 decades, essentially. Colin, you probably have a better idea of that, maybe from within your role with the GAA. Is anything like that likely from a government point of view that could force us to be more inclusive?
Well, I think we saw a step in the right direction with since the amalgamation of the WGPA and the GPA, and some really pointed lobbying of government around the equalisation of the inter-county grants for male and female players. I think that it's a small gesture, but it's hugely symbolic in our own codes. I would have heard, I think Dermot O'Rourke and some other female athletes were calling out the lack of balance in other elements of the sporting arena for male and female athletes, and even across different codes as well. And I think we're at a kind of a critical stage in terms of speaking around Gaelic games, particularly. What does the future of Gaelic games really look like in terms of a level playing field and the really meaningful cooperation and collaboration between GAA, LGFA and Camogie? And I know, as Bronagh pointed out, the LGFA and ladies football is just it's experienced stratospheric rise over the last couple of decades. Camogie, it probably struggling more in terms of that. So many players would have been dual players a number of years ago across both codes there, and the sudden rise and profile of the ladies football has undoubtedly negatively impacted Camogie. So the more that we sit around the one table and I first of all agree a shared vision of what we want to achieve, only then can we actually start working towards it and ensuring that there's parity and equal opportunity for everybody on Gaelic games, and then that has to translate right across all other codes. We've seen golf recently has really led the way in terms of an amalgamation, and there is a lot of lessons to be learned from that journey. But obviously, there's a lot of sensitivities within the three associations as well. So we're not saying it's not going to be without its challenges to find that sweet spot of where cooperation and collaboration works. But I think the first step is identifying that shared vision of what we want the future to look like, checking that out with all our clubs. And I know, I think it's over 40% of clubs at the moment are using the one club model. So it's already happening at grassroots level. So there's lessons to be learned there to identify. Maybe some of the barriers are more perceived than real, because if it's operating successfully in across a significant percentage of clubs on the ground, then I think we need to work with those clubs, identify what hurdles they had to overcome, how they've implemented a successful one club model, and start that as our base and work it from the bottom up as much from the top down.
Yeah, there's some really good examples within this county as well of clubs. I'm not going to name them because I will forget one of them, but I know there's some really successful examples of how that works here. Bronagh, bringing it back to, I suppose, where the ladies are at the moment, on the domestic internal scene here, the club season starts on Sunday. You won't be involved because you're on the county panel, but your teammates in St. Joseph's will be in action. They will take the hosting duties against St. Bridget's. So some familiarity there as well. Will you get the chance to go down and have a look yourself? Will you be in attendance, or are you allowed to be in attendance with COVID restrictions?
Oh, well, hopefully, depending on our kind of schedule with training, but if we catch the end of it, it'll be great. But yeah, sure, no more than any other club like ourselves, the girls are just glad to be able to play a competitive game. For the majority of them, they haven't played a real game since like August, September. So it's been a very long time. So they'll just be glad to be able to be marking someone different.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
In terms of the league final yourselves, Sunday week sees you take to the field against Louth, again, as we mentioned at the top of the interview. At Clonus, the venue, you mentioned that Louth will be a bit stronger. I know Kate Flood to come back into that team. What's the outlook for Leitrim? Can we start to get excited? Can we start to maybe dream of bringing home that league title this year?
Yeah, well, look at it. As I said, we've been quite public in what we've wanted to do, and we're, I suppose, one step away from it. So there's no point shying away. We're not going to be just competing in the game. We want to win it. So we are certainly going out to win it and put our best foot forward. And all we can do is say we perform to the absolute maximum. And if that's win or lose, then we can go home happy because we couldn't do anything more. So we just want to try and get a performance in and see where that will take us.
And finally, before we let you go, of course, Glencar Manor in action this weekend in the Connacht Club Championship. You've been involved in that for the last couple of years as the Leitrim representatives. You've been to these stages before. What's going through their minds maybe this weekend ahead of a Connacht final?
Yeah, well, I suppose excitement, a wee bit of nerves. I suppose it's the beauty in that, and is that you're not really, you don't really know the club teams that you're playing, so there's that kind of unpredictability. So you're just kind of focusing on yourself more so than looking at opposition teams. So it's great to have a Leitrim representative now on Saturday, and hopefully Manor can do the business. They're well capable of doing it.
Absolutely. They face Eva in Merkovitz Park on Saturday in that Connacht Intermediate Club Football Championship, of course, delayed from the end of last season. Bronagh O'Rourke, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on a fine win. 2-1, I think you got in the end. Nice to get in the score sheet always, and we'll be chatting to you as the season progresses, either with Leitrim, as we hopefully continue the form into the championship, and also in the club season ahead. Thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you.
Best luck, Bronagh.
Bronagh O'Rourke there, St. Joseph's stalwart, and of course Leitrim Ladies regular as well. Colin, I don't know how much of the game you caught. I caught the second half at the weekend. Disappointing second half by Leitrim Ladies standards, but so far ahead at the break, it was never really in doubt from about 10 or 15 minutes into the match.
It was the radio updates that was keeping me plugged in there, Breifne. But like chatting to Bronagh, what I love from the vibe coming from the ladies this year is that they're not afraid to state what their ambitions are. You know, that's often something that we've been lacking in Leitrim. Keep your head down and don't pretend that you're going to try to win anything here, or don't let on that we have ambitions that big. Because if we fail, then we'll have egg on our face. That the ladies have set out their stall, and it's very clear the impact that Hugh is having there. You hear Bronagh talking about just the level of preparedness and adaptability, flexibility that he has brought to things, which is obviously very necessary in these unusual times. But there seems to be just an ambition about the ladies that is paying dividends at the moment.
Absolutely. No, I had the pleasure of spending a bit of time at a training session last week, and I got to chat to a few of them on the show, and every single one of them, we're here to win the championship, we're here to win the league, we want to win every game this season, and it's so refreshing to hear that from a team, and actually then backing it up on the pitch. Great to see on that. Now, one thing that caught my eye during the week, we mentioned at the top of the show, and I suppose it's kind of derived from a ladies' football program that might be doing a disservice to
Not at all.
in Croke Park, but
not at all. We're glad
Gaelic,
to hold on to their coattails.
But the Gaelic for Mothers and Others has been a resounding success across the country in the last 5 or 6 years. And now we have finally got an opportunity for me to lace the boots up and get back out, even in this unbelievably poor fitness levels. And I'm hoping to meet lots of people who are watching this now over the next couple of weeks and months as we see Gaelic for Dads and Lads. Tell us about it.
Well, as you said, through the healthy, the inspiration clearly came from the very successful Gaelic for Mothers and Others, and through the Healthy Club project, which falls within the Community and Health Department in Croke Park, we saw huge numbers of the 300 clubs involved in the Healthy Club project participating in the Gaelic for Mothers and Others, and it was bringing a brilliant energy. It was providing a new outlet and physical activity for a lot of women who maybe didn't see a natural opportunity for them in Gaelic games. A lot of them were mothers whose children were playing the codes, be it football or camogie as well, and we kept getting asked questions, where's the male option for this here? And actually over the last, we ran a kind of a pilot blitz out in Abbottstown, the National Games Development Centre in Abbottstown in November 2019, and we had 15 hurling teams and 5 football. Interesting, the hurling, much more appetite in the hurling initially for this here than in the football. Maybe the lads and dads were getting, or the dads and lads are getting amply covered with the 5-a-side soccer or something, but there was 160 players representing social hurling and football teams from across the 4 provinces, and the crack was absolutely 90 out there. I must say it was one of the most enjoyable days I've put in my 10 years in Croke Park, and that gave us the confidence to kind of go on and say, well, look, there's clearly a demand here. It's starting to happen organically and naturally all around the country. Like, we have the half-pace hurlers up in Antrim, we have Lurgan social hurling, we have Cork social football and hurling, we have the St. Columkills team in Bettystown Meath have both codes covered for their dads and lads. So we've been working on trying to bring it to fruition. It was obviously paused somewhat during COVID. We were pretty much ready to go last summer. But we just launched it last week, and already the response has been huge. And we surveyed the 160 lads at that national blitz, asking them, what is it about the social games that interested them and made them sign up. For a start, the average age was 44. I won't say what the average weight was, but there was a few. Size did not matter. There was a lot of boys testing the stitching on jerseys who had some lovely skill levels that you could see. There was football and hurling in them, absolutely, and that's the whole point. It's about either reconnecting with the games you love, and maybe that you've retired or you lapsed, or actually we had a Kiwi, we had a Yank, we had a couple of other European nationalities out of that blitz. So it was a couple of people who had moved to Ireland were using the social games as an opportunity to test out Gaelic games as well, which was great to see. So our plan basically, Breifne, is to get as many clubs who want to roll this out for their has-beens or their never-wears men in their club, and we'll be, based on demand, we'll be putting on some provincial blitzes and a national blitz again. Just to put it in context, the Gaelic for Mothers and Others National Blitz Day attracts over 1,000 teams from across the island. Just for the clubs, there's actually a webinar going out on Thursday evening for any clubs that are interested in finding out more about it. If you go on to gaa.ie/community, you can find out the link to that, and feel free to tune in and find out what it's all about. It's all, we asked the guys, why do they do it? The 3 top reasons were to improve their fitness, get out and get active, for the camaraderie and the bit of crack and banter that only a team sport can bring, and then actually to reconnect with old friends or to meet up with new ones. So those three things kind of underpin the values and what GAA for Dads and Lads is all about. And it's part of it. We're going to be launching a broader suite of kind of social Gaelic games later on in the year with recreational rounders, healthy handball, one wall handball, joining with Gaelic for Dads and Lads, Gaelic for Mothers and Others, and Come On and Play, which is the camogie offering as well.
Somebody has had a field day with the alliteration and the rhyming dictionary. In terms of that, I think it sounds fantastic, and I think it's something that every club should do. So I suppose it's going to take somebody in each club to kind of lead this. So it doesn't have to be an existing member, maybe. It could be someone who just decides, I'd like to take part in that. I'll help out and get involved and take a bit of the load that's on pretty overstressed volunteers already within club structures.
You nailed it on the head, Bethany. Everyone that has started already, those organic little happenings that have mushroomed up across the country, there's been one champion that's just rang up a few mates and said, lads, what about it? Let's get this started. In fact, quite a few areas where maybe there wasn't enough people in one club, a number of clubs have come together, and few boys reliving old rivalries, but they'll be glad to hear that. Look, we're very mindful of the age profile. Anybody can play it, but we're very mindful of everybody's allergic to injuries at that age. So it's incidental contact only. It's self-governed games. There's no referees. It's completely organised by the players themselves. Look, I love a bit of five-a-side. I always have. It's a phenomenal game. And it's the very same principles. You get a few lads together, you go out, you agree what the rules are for the particular session, whether you can score from here or there, goals only, maybe in football or hurling. Actually, the thing that enthused me, I was chatting to my brother Stuart at the weekend, and he was saying that there's a good Derry man down involved in the Melvin Gales club, or living in Kinloch at the minute down there. His son Oscar is best friends with my nephew, and he was actually suggesting getting a Dads and Lads hurling started down in Melvin Gales, a club that's never had hurling bar. I played one game, Fado, to try it when Leitrim only had 3 teams competing in the championship. We amalgamated with everybody we could get our hands on to put a 4th team in.
Well, I suppose in that respect, that hasn't changed. We're down to 2 now at the moment.
That's right.
But in terms of that, it'd be great to see as many teams involved. I would pay money to watch Melvin Gales and Manor in the county final of that, because I know with no referees, it's going to be an absolute humdinger of a clash. And you might even talk out yourself on that one, Colin.
I'd love to get the boots out again.
So people can find it. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it is outside the traditional competitive structures, so there won't be those leagues. You meet up, you play a game for a bit of crack. If somebody wants to keep the score, that's their business. But and definitely there'll be no old scores caught up on either. But yeah. As I said, I think you're going to find
I believe that when I say it, but there are some people who won't be as forgiving. But I think the whole ethos of it is just about getting out and getting active and being involved. And for newbies, for people who might never have played in their youth, and for people who have maybe lapsed out of the competitive, not even the competitive, but the recreational side of the game, it's a great opportunity. You mentioned a web address there. I just want to repeat it: GAA.ie/community.
On the ball, Breifne.
And to check that out, Colin, of course, it's one of the programs that he heads up, that unit in the GAA in Croke Park as well. Obviously, as a county, we're very proud to have people like himself and Fergal McGill up there, having huge involvement in these kind of programs that are affecting, I suppose, the community's health across the country. And everybody wishes you the best of luck. I think it sounds fantastic. It's something I'd love to get involved in myself. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's probably sitting listening to this saying, you know what, I should really sign up for that. Well, if you're thinking you could sign up for it, go be that ambassador, go be that hero in the club and get up and running. And you never know who you'll be playing with in a couple of weeks' time. In terms of that, I suppose we better take another look at another club doing fantastic things and something a little bit different. And it was the Texaco Support for Sport program. It was run in the last couple of months, and clubs were invited of all codes, all sports across the country were invited to become their county's champion, and each county champion received €5,000 towards their project, and they could pitch for anything, whatever project in the club they wanted. And of course, Dromahair were selected as the club, happened to be a GAA club in this county, as it was, I think, 11 of the 26 counties, but there was basketball, swimming, soccer, all the gamut of activities in there as well. I caught up with a couple of members of the club, as well as representatives from Texaco, at the announcement of their prize today in Carrick-on-Shannon. Martin Clancy, we're here in Carrick-on-Shannon, a little bit out of the way from Dromahair, but you're here with a very good reason. Tell us why you're down in Carrick today.
Thank you very much, Breifne. We're up here in Carrick today. We've been awarded €5,000 by Texaco towards the development of our pitch, specifically to get a fence and an enclosure on our pitch. For many years now, we've been hoping and applying and trying to get some sort of fundraiser and funds together to be able to develop our pitch. We don't have a fence around it, we don't have dugouts, and we don't have a stand. Not that these are going to obviously impact the playing of the players on the pitch, but it does have a psychological effect as well. You're going to be a bit prouder of your pitch if you have these things. In terms of being able to play championship games there as well, you have to have a pitch or an enclosure or a fence. So this €5,000 is going to go a long way towards being able to get that put into place.
Of course, from a player's point of view, what's the mood like in the camp? Do things like this even come into the equation when a team is preparing for, I suppose, the start of the league in the next 2 weeks?
I wouldn't say it has any influence on the way our mindset is towards football, but it does give us a boost in terms of the pride that we have in our own club. Players, opposition that come down and they come to a pitch like ours, and when it's not fully developed to the same standard that they have, it nearly seems like they're looking down at us. So we try and then show on the field that we are actually a team that can compete with the big teams. So we have to put a lot more into our football, we feel, just to make up for that lack of facilities. Eugene Coyne, area manager for Texaco. I suppose, thank you very much for coming to Leitrim, to Carrick-on-Shannon at least today, to award this prize to Dromahair. It's fantastic promotion. Tell us a bit about why Texaco are involved in it.
Yeah, well, I suppose just we wanted to run a competition last year, just to give a bit back to the community. So we ran this competition to involve, we want to pick a winner in every county. So logistically it was spread out evenly. So a winner in each county. We ran a competition. Bronagh O'Rourke was the main judge in the competition. So he vetted all the entries and he picked a worthy winner in each county. So I think Dromahair was a very worthy winner in Leitrim, and the money's going to be spent on doing up their football pitch and the grounds and that. So the money well spent. Of course, this competition open to all clubs in the county. Yeah. What's the plans for next year? Where can people get the application forms for next year when this bit of jealousy will kick in now with Dromahair's award? We're going to run it again. So again, all the communication will go out to all the clubs again that's registered, and it'll be put out into the local media, Facebook, Instagram, and information will go to all the clubs again. So yeah, keep an eye out for it. In terms of, I suppose, the actual award, what's the parameters? What's it allowed to be used for? What can the money go towards? It's a very broad spectrum, so the money can be spent on anything to enhance the club. So whether it's painting the club or doing groundworks, it's a whole community and club orientated. So anything that can improve the club, I don't think makes a justification for money well spent. All that's looked at. Obviously, Texaco, a well-known brand across many towns across the county and across the country. It's a nice idea. It's really great to see giving back to the community. How important is it for a company like Texaco to give that support back to small and rural areas as well as the urban areas? Yeah, it's very important. Like, especially with the last 18 months where we've been through. You know, we know that it's been very difficult for especially smaller clubs to generate money. All the revenue streams have been cut off. No gate receipts. Very hard to do any fundraising. So I would think 5,000 can go a long way with a lot of smaller clubs. So it's very important to be seen to be given back to the communities in the local towns and villages. Yvonne Gibney, you were one of the main reasons for the application in the first place from Dromahair. Talk us through the project and why you got involved on behalf of the club.
Well, I actually saw say this coming up on Facebook feed originally, and I thought, say especially with, I suppose, the last year that's been in it, and it was an opportunity to enter a competition for €5,000 for to get funding for dugouts, and railing is what I entered the competition originally for, and so I kind of decided to sort of put in an entry, and I kind of drafted some poetry, and as part of the application it was a 250 word entry that had to be applied, and submitted a video, and off it went. So found out then sort of earlier this year that we had been shortlisted as one of the clubs for Leitrim, and then to our great surprise and delight, we ended up winning the competition for Sligo, or for Leitrim.
I know you live on the Sligo border in Dromahair. We're currently in Roscommon. It can all get very confusing. In terms of, I suppose, how important it is for clubs like Dromahair and other clubs around the county, all codes, not just Gaelic games, to be aware of and to put their name in the hat for these kind of grants, that like €5,000, that's a lot of fundraising that would have to be done to raise that kind of money.
Yeah, it is, and it's actually it's a great initiative. And I was just talking to Eugene there, and he was saying this is the first year they've run this, and obviously they'll continue to run this, and they do tend to look at the smaller clubs for these awards. So that was a huge benefit to us, because we are a small rural club, and this is huge money for us, and it goes a long way to support us and how we're developing the club as we go forward through the years.
So Carmel, Lunney, great day to be involved with Texaco and this fantastic promotion to support the local sports clubs in the county of Leitrim. Happy to be part of it?
Yeah, delighted to be a part of it. It's great to have a local team win such an award. It's €5,000. It's a lot of money for a small club. It was open to any sports club in Leitrim, and we're delighted it went to Dromahair GAA. They're very worthy winners.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, what it means for Texaco to be involved with that, how important is it to be involved in the local community? Because obviously every business is local at the end of the day, particularly now when people can't move around.
Yeah, it's been extremely important for us, particularly in these COVID times. When COVID hit, everything was closed, the roads were quiet, but it was the time that we felt that local communities and sports clubs really needed support, and it was a great initiative on Texaco's part to do that, and I think it's something they're going to continue year on year now.
Obviously, of course, we are on the Roscommon side of the river here in Carrick-on-Shannon. It's a Leitrim club though, and I suppose the waters are very muddied between Leitrim and Roscommon when we get to this part of the world. Delighted to be giving it back into the county, even though maybe not quite where you're from yourself?
No, well, I'm a Leitrim related myself, so I'm delighted it's going to a Leitrim team. We are sort of on the border here, but Leitrim and Roscommon and Carrick-on-Shannon is very much sort of a bi-county area.
Dermot O'Donoghue, chairman of St Patrick's Dromahair GAA Club. Congratulations, first of all. How important is it to the club to have been awarded this prize from Texaco?
Well, like every club, every penny counts, and we tend to do a bit of work around the pitch, in the grounds. This is aimed at maybe dugouts on the pitch. We're looking at upgrading the pitch as well, hopefully in the next year and a half. There's a big fundraiser coming for that too. So every penny counts, and Yvonne done great work getting this prize for us, and Texaco, I'd like to thank Texaco for what they've done as well, and for the €5,000.
Yeah, it's going towards kind of developments in the club on the pitch in terms of dugouts. Not the sexy stuff that people generally like to pay for around football clubs. How good is it to get this little bit of a boost into the club?
Oh, it is. It's great. Like it's hard earned. €5,000 is hard earned. Every club has a lot of tickets. They get €5,000. So it's great to get this boost and help for the dugouts. People have seen Dromahair. We don't have the dugouts. We don't have the facilities yet. We're working on it. But this money it's great for us. You know what I mean? It's a great boost to the club.
Well, we talked to your chairman about the semi-final defeat last year in the championship. Does that still sting a little bit?
Yeah, we talk about it at every training session. So at the end of the day, we want to win games. That's what we're here for. We train to win football games so that we can be at the top league. going out in the semi-final last year in the way that we did still hurts. So we want to put that right this year, and that's our intention.
What's the mood like in the camp coming into the championship? I know I was at training the other day for a bit of a photo shoot.
Yeah.
There was a good camaraderie around the place. There was a good atmosphere. You obviously same staff from last year. Martin Clancy is still manager. Everything good in the camp?
Everything's great. Yeah, thank God. So Pádraig wanted to stay on. We wanted him to stay on. We have unfinished business. We feel as though we have the players and we have the management to be able to go on and win the intermediate championship. We did last year. We do again this year. The league start now in 2 weeks' time. It's going to be a great way for us to go out and to improve on our ball skills and our fitness while we're preparing for championship at the same time. So we're looking forward to it.
Intermediate championship, of course, this year a bit uncertain. You don't know who's going up. You don't know who's coming up from junior either.
Yeah.
So it's hard to even prepare for who you might be playing against. Or does that even come into consideration now? Is it just a case of getting into the best shape you can get yourselves into?
I wouldn't say that we're planning towards any specific teams. It's the next game. It's always the next game. So you take it one game at a time. You put in your 100% effort into that game. You win that, and you move on to the next one.
You're not hoping to get Gortletcher in the first round for a bit of a payback?
If we got Gortletcher, we'd be more than happy to play them in the first round of the championship, yeah.
In terms of these kind of grants, people, or these kind of competitions, people get put off by the paperwork. How many hours, what kind of work was involved in actually putting in the application?
Not as much as maybe you'd expect. Like, I mean, versus say grant applications, it was actually once you had the idea and sort of putting it down, it actually took probably no more than say a couple of hours over a number of days. So I think say my foray into poetry was unexpected, but it actually worked out quite better than I had expected. So I think that hopefully was the clincher as to how we managed to be successful this time around.
We won't be seeing any collections of poetry from yourself over the next few years.
I'm afraid not. I think that was my one and only dip in the water on that one. But I mean, it was great because you know, there was 400 entries nationwide for this competition, and we are then one of 5 Gaelic clubs who received the award from across the country. And you know, it's great to sort of have won it, say from 400 entries, and we're so delighted, like, you know, to be the recipients this year.
Talk to us about where the club is at the moment. Obviously, intermediate semi-finalists last year.
Yeah.
You'd be disappointed with how that ended, maybe.
Yeah, kick of a ball away from on a windy day from getting through. We're back again next year. I think the intermediate championship is probably harder to get out of than the win than the senior. We'll give it a go again this year. We have a good panel. We have a big panel of lads, and we have a good team there. We have a junior team again this year. So it's a huge boost. Good underage, you know. So it's championship. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go again this year. We'll not be afraid of anyone.
And of course, the league starts for yourselves in 10 days.
10 days.
Looking forward to getting back.
Yeah, Auckland, first game. It's good to get back. See how things go. See how lads have been training. They've been training hard, like back together. They've been training over the winter on their own, you know. But it's good to get back in the pitch, back watching matches, back participating in matches and organising matches and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's good to be back.
From today's point of view, obviously Texaco is hugely supportive of local clubs, and St. Pat's and Dromahair have been the beneficiaries in Leitrim. Congratulations to everybody involved. I'm sure we'll look forward to seeing the facilities improve over the next few years. I suppose it's going to be really, in terms of the scale of the project that's ahead of you. The very best luck.
Thank you very much, Breifne. Appreciate it.
Fantastic for a club like Dromahair to get that little bit of a pick-me-up, and as we heard there from Martin Clancy, those kind of things, they help drive the whole momentum of the club, and that will eventually translate onto the pitch over the course of the next few years for the club. Colin, I suppose you see these kind of initiatives, whether they're from the corporate sector, like from Texaco, or from GAA or government. How important is it for clubs to really become more aware of what grants are out there, what resources are there to support programs that they want to put on, but maybe don't feel they have the ability to put on?
That's a really good question, Bethany. And actually, one of the great strengths of the GAA can be one of its great weaknesses, because we are so self-sufficient often that we don't look outwards enough. And even if you look at the kind of local authority structures within the county, you know, every county has a PPN. And every single GAA club in Leitrim should be on the emailing list of the Leitrim PPN, because it keeps you updated around every funding call that's going on out there. And we know that GAA clubs are underrepresented in those funding opportunities, be it from coming down from government level. For the likes of Healthy Ireland regularly has grant calls for initiatives that supports the well-being of the community. And what I know from seeing the healthy clubs that are involved in County Leitrim, you know, everything that they do speaks to the criteria of those funding calls. And I know it takes a little bit of time for volunteers to put in the effort to go ahead and apply for that funding. But if you're successful, it can be only a tiny percentage of the kind of effort that a club puts into organising a massive fundraising drive or something like that there. And anyway, if the club is doing so much work already to support the health and well-being of the community, why not get recognised and rewarded for that work? Because it is above and beyond the traditional role of a sports club. And that's one of the things that GAA clubs do so well. You know, they as we saw with the pandemic last year, you know, in terms of the community response and the delivering of groceries, etc. But so many funding streams now have links into health and well-being, and so many GAA clubs have the ability to speak very clearly to that criteria. So if my advice would be to all the clubs in the county, make sure you're on the mailing list for the Leitrim PPN, make sure you're linked into the LCDC, and that you're receiving notifications about funding opportunities. Make sure you're linked in with Leitrim Sports Partnership, and particularly if you're doing anything in the area of diversity and inclusion, link in with the SIDO, the Sports Inclusion Disability Officer in Leitrim Sports Partnership as well, to ensure that they're making you aware of any funding opportunities that are out there, but also supporting you in the delivery of any of your programs.
Of course, and just for clarification, the SIDO in Leitrim is Michelle Fanning, who'll be well known to plenty of people around the Ballinamoor area as well. But some really, really good people in there in the sports partnership. I won't name them all because, again, I'll forget them all. But Declan Boyle heads them up there, and Patricia Ford as well, former Leitrim Ladies player, well known in terms of the Gaelic community around the county. And really, it's a case of touch base. If you don't know what those acronyms that Colin has said, like the PPN or the LCDC, you probably need to ask the question. So reach out and ask the question, make yourself known to them. There are fantastic opportunities out there. This one happened to be, in Dromahair's case, happened to be from a corporate sponsor. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of these opportunities every year to help with maybe gym equipment for your gym, or safety equipment, or a defibrillator, or whatever it might be that will add huge value to your club and your communities. Do check them out. And of course, that's pretty much it for the show this week. Thanks very much, Colin, for joining us. It's been great having you as always. Pleasure to shoot the breeze with you about all things Leitrim GAA. We better mention just before we wrap up that it is the weekend of the Supporters Club draw. A couple of days left to get your tickets for that particular draw on Saturday afternoon. We'll get it early, leitrimsupportersclub.ie. Tickets are €50. Don't forget to tick which club you're with. And also in terms of the actual draw, it will be streamed online. I know there are discussions been had about exactly how that will be done over the course of the next couple of days, but it will be live available. It's not an event that you're unable to go to because of restrictions, unfortunately. So if you're not directly involved, please don't arrive down to Cox's on Saturday evening. But at the same time, do support them over the summer. Book a meal, go have a visit, say hello to the lovely staff, and eat their lovely meal. They have sponsored the Supporters Club again this year, and they're fantastic supporters of all things Leitrim GAA over the years. Plenty of other sponsors in there as well. 12 fantastic prizes. You might get your name on it. If it's not in the hat yet, go buy a ticket. Colin, of course, vital, important that everyone who supports Leitrim does put their name in that hat.
Absolutely, Beth. You know, it's a phenomenal array of prizes, and as you rightly mentioned, highlighting the incredible support Cox's have given to it year on year. And I'm looking forward to when I'm on the road home from Dublin again, and I can stop in there, as I have done many times in the past. And you know, obviously the additional bonus, from what clubs receive from the supporters club draw this year as well, as a further incentive for everybody to just get that. And look, there's nothing better than driving around somewhere and seeing the Leitrim supporters bumper sticker on the back window of a car, knowing that there's one of the tribe there passing you by.
Absolutely. I'll just run through the prizes really quickly just to give everyone their due. €5,000 sponsored by Cox's Steakhouse in Drummond. Second prize is €2,000. Third prize is €1,000 from Westlink Coaches. Fourth prize is 3 nights B&B in the Bush Hotel for 4, and the tour of the Shed Distillery, a VIP, no less, Shed Distillery tour in Drumshanbo. Fifth prize, 2 nights B&B, 1 evening meal, Lochrain Hotel and Shannon Blueway activity. Sixth prize is a €500 voucher for the Landmark Hotel. Seventh prize, 2 nights B&B in the Titanic Hotel in Belfast with 2 tickets to the Titanic Visitor Centre. €500 voucher for W8 in Manor Hamilton is 8th prize. 9th prize, 10th prize and 11th prize are €250 vouchers for each of the municipal areas from Leitrim Tourism, Manor Hamilton, Ballinamore and Carrick and Shannon. You know which one will apply to you, but they are those vouchers. You can spend them with any tourism facility or member of Leitrim Tourism provider, that's the word I was looking for. Any of the outlets across the county, a €250 voucher there, 9th, 10th and 11th. And then the final prize is €250 cash prize as well. So something for everybody. But I suppose the real thing is that the prizes are nice, but really it's to try and get behind the county teams and allow everybody to increase the standards and increase the performances. And God knows we need that little bit of a push right now with 15 or 30 lads taken to the field against Mayo in a couple of weeks. Mayo or Sligo. I'm going to get in trouble with Sligo if I don't say that. So we need all the support we can get for the footballers, the hurlers, at all ages, the whole way up. It supports all our county teams and all our activities in terms of what we get up to through the year. All the stuff that happens behind the scenes. Colin, of course, you're well familiar with that over the years. Anyway, we've gone on way too long. Thank you so much for joining us. Colin, pleasure as always. We'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Slán.